is the name of your BBSOAS child?
Oh, my son's name is Alexander.
And how old is Alexander?
He is 12.
Okay.
Very soon.
What did you say?
Very soon to be 13, which is scary.
I have a 11-year-old turning 12 this fall, so it's coming. Very scary.
Yeah.
Well, we're interested in your feedback on the conference experience. What did you think of it?
So my husband and I took Alexander. We have 2 other children, but we chose to just take Alexander, and we had just received our diagnosis in January. And so while we were exploring what this was, we came across not only the conference, but also the foundation. And we decided it was probably the best time for us to get submerged into the information. So for us, it was very educational. It gave us a chance to connect with other individuals and families and doctors. And so I thought it was phenomenal. I'm very glad that we went.
Good. Awesome. What was the most interesting thing that you learned from the conference that you didn't know before?
I think the wide spectrum of doctors, like professionals, that are focusing in on this. The doctors that were overseas, I mean, they were in the United States, but, being overseas and them having a strong focus on this disorder, as well as those that are within the United States. And it was interesting because it's Dr. Schaff spoke first. And so he's overseas. And I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll be traveling overseas. And then the doctor spoke, and she's from Texas. And I'm like, oh, well, sweet. We can stay inside the United States. And then Dr. Shaw spoke, and he's in Cincinnati, and we're in Michigan. So for us, I was like, man, it's just getting closer and closer for me. So, I think that gave me a lot of reassurance that there is doctors focusing on this. And I didn't feel like there was when I was first told of his diagnosis. Although we're at a pretty good hospital that we actually got the genetic testing with, I just didn't feel like they knew much about it. And so when I had done my research, I felt like that was about the extent of what they had. And so it made me feel much better about where this could be taking us, that there's other people in the world that are focusing on it. So I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, and that there's resources out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources. That's good. I'm glad that you were able to get a lot from that. Were there any speakers that you were glad to hear from?
Dr. Shaw was one for sure. And Dr. Jane was the other one that I enjoyed hearing from her. She's the one in Texas. Mm-hmm. I wish I went to the conference in 2018, because I felt like they then got to be hands-on with them. Like, oh, I so wish I could have been in that. But the information she was providing, and I know she just honed in on a small component of what she could have. I felt like I could have listened to her for days. One, because it was easy to listen to her, but also I felt like the information she was sharing, we could very easily apply. And it was like, oh yes, it was a lot of like aha moments of relating it to your child. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Now I understand why that was happening. So I think I enjoyed her a lot. Now, with that being said, I also got the opportunity, my husband and I, we spoke with Dr. Shaw, just sidebar, not when he was speaking.
Awesome.
And we learned some other components too that was really helpful. So we are now working to get an appointment with him, but it's using those resources. So I think for me, the presentation component, probably Dr. Jane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that input. What would you say your best experience was attending the conference?
I think was meeting some of the families and just understanding, they're just families too. And it just makes you feel like you're not alone. And I think that's the best part.
Yeah, it's a wonderful family network that we have going.
Yes.
Very wonderful. Would you plan on attending in person again in the future in 2024?
I think we might. And I think, we didn't have our son listen as much. Like we allowed him to kind of zone out. We had him sitting there, but we allowed him to plug into an electronic.
Right.
Because one, I wasn't sure what was going to be said and what may make him uneasy. So he'll then be a little bit older. He then will understand this a little bit more. He's super excited to go and have an appointment. He asked me, he says, "Do we have an appointment with Dr. Shaw yet?"
That's awesome.
He's
That's
never
cool.
asked with excitement of, when I go see, Dr. Shaw.
Yeah.
So I think with his maturity, we would attend and I will tell him the benefits of him listening. So hopefully he'll listen. And then also probably bringing our other 2 kids. So then they can hear it and then they can connect with the other families too. So
Right.
I can
The
perceive.
siblings have a big role in this as well. And it's, that's a good idea. Do you have any advice for any other families that are wanting to attend the conference in 2024?
I think the biggest advice and another reason why I feel, the other part too, sorry to kind of go back to your other one.
No, you're great.
People that were attending would bring a grandparent. So if their kid did not want to sit through the conference or a certain section, they went to the pool. I was like, oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We missed it on that one. So maybe a Nana will come and so then they can chime in too. But I think for people that are considering coming, to know that it is very family friendly. It can be extremely educational, but also it's a loose environment. So it's come and go, through the different segments. If your kid's good for a few minutes, you need to pop out, check them at the pool. That's a lot of what it was. And when I think of conference, I think of a little bit more stringent, where there's you come in, you gotta be quiet, and it's that's just because I think of conferences, I think of work.
Right.
That it is a family friendly conference. I think that would be the biggest thing for people to know.
Okay. And that is our goal, is to, always make sure that the whole family in a whole is welcome, to any and everything. So that's really good advice. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so. I think that's about it. I was very grateful for finding the foundation and that they're offering the conference, because and my husband and us, we came home and we had several conversations, and we still do now, but the week after we'd be going on without our day, and I'd say, at the conference, it was, chiming in on something that I had heard or saw, and what do you think about that? And I thought it was really great to have that and to feel it's once again, I'm still working through the process of, how I feel and the sharing of the disorder with family and friends. But it just allowed me to relax a little bit more with it. And I think that's the biggest part. And the other thing that I took away from that is that there's people out there that are advocates in schools, and that's a part that I wasn't aware of. I always knew I had to fight for my kid for whatever I needed in his education. But it became much more strong, and there's no wiggle room for me anymore.
Yeah. kind of are ready to fight for what.
Yeah.
Well,
so, and that was a good part of, communicating with the parents there is, who are they using? What are they doing with them? So I was really grateful for that.
Good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out to interview with me, and I appreciate all your wonderful advice. Yeah. And I look forward to hopefully getting to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.